Happy Halloween, listeners, and welcome to a special ghoulishly themed episode of The Animates. Last time we discussed Tales from the Crypt Keeper, and this week, to celebrate Halloween, as long as I have finished editing this and uploaded the episode on Halloween, which I will, perhaps.
Thunderclash.
I'll have to edit this part out in post. But this time we discussed the sequel to the real Ghostbusters called The Extreme Ghostbusters, a series which took place, I believe, was made a couple of years after Real Ghostbusters ended, and replaced that cast, all bar Egon, Janine, and Slimer, with a much younger force of Ghostbusters who come on as Egon's new recruits. They're more in the extreme teenager mold of the 90s, which was, as was the style at the time. I guess this gave me sort of Batman Beyond vibes, where it was like someone from the old guard training someone to take their place.
Yeah, I always like that take on a property. It's sort of when you can just slap Beyond onto it and get the idea.
Yeah, it was either Beyond or Extreme, I feel, in the 90s. So we had there was kind of a pattern with this happening, where animated series that had come out sort of probably in the 80s, say, would get a sequel series. So we got G.I. Joe Extreme, which was sort of set in the future.
Really?
Yeah, that was like future G.I. Joe. None of the original characters came back for it, but it was set in the same universe. Completely different characters, more sort of high-tech sci-fi. We got the New Adventures of He-Man, which was He-Man and Skeletor going into the future, and that had a completely new cast. I feel like there's something else that I am forgetting.
I feel like I might be mistaking you. I think you mentioned a RoboCop follow-up of some kind.
Oh yes, RoboCop Alpha. I got this wrong in the RoboCop episode. I'm going to say like Alpha Force, Delta Force, RoboCop Delta Force. I bet it was Alpha Force. Now that I've said that, let's roll the footage. I'm right. So
this is one of, as dreaded as you seem to be to acknowledge, 3 Ghostbusters cartoons. Somewhat
it's not 3. What are you talking about?
It's because it's called The Real Ghostbusters as a middle finger to Filmation Ghostbusters.
Well, when we were discussing Halloween episodes, I said perhaps we could do a Ghostbusters episode every Halloween, and you were like, you're just trying to put off Filmation Ghostbusters for another 3 years, aren't you?
I think just one day I woke up and randomly in our direct message box, because we have a Google Doc of all the things we could review, and I just wake up one day and open a message from you that just says in all caps, "Did you add Filmation Ghostbusters to the Google Docs, you madman?" Which I don't know. I know like barely the premise. I don't know if it's particularly bad or anything. I just love the notion that they just got completely screwed over by Real Ghostbusters. It's the saddest story I've ever heard.
Well, they shouldn't have put a gorilla in a hat in a car, should they? It's their own bloody fault. I've no sympathy for Filmation in that
You
regard.
get what you deserve.
You get what you fucking deserve, Filmation. I think we've had enough of your Ghostbusters.
You saying there's 3? You think there's 3 Ghostbusters cartoons? I do, and I'm tired of pretending there's not.
I used to think my life was the real Ghostbusters. Now I realize it's the Filmation Ghostbusters.
Oh god.
But yeah, the Extreme Ghostbusters. We've got 4 new Ghostbuster characters. We've got Kylie, who looks like Winona Ryder from Beetlejuice.
Oh yeah.
Or Edward Scissorhands. Which one is it? I swear she's a goth in one.
Beetlejuice, she's like very, very gothic Lolita.
What is she in? That must be the one that I'm thinking. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, maybe
she strikes me. Oh,
They
because she
adapted
strikes me kind
Beetlejuice.
of. Yeah, there's a Beetlejuice cartoon, and the
Yeah.
characters in that one. She strikes me. Kylie strikes me more in the jock area than like dress goth. So I wonder if maybe you're thinking of Edward. But I haven't seen Edward Scissorhands in a long time. Scissorhands Winona is vaguely sportier, so maybe, and she's blonde in that one. So I don't.
Oh, it's
It could
definitely
just be.
Beetlejuice that I'm thinking of then, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
My whole life is a dark room.
Voiced by Tara Strong of Tara
Oh,
Strong
okay.
fame. What are the other characters called? Eduardo.
I'm
Not Eduardo.
Eduardo, the creep.
He is a little, yeah.
I say I feel very aggro. I feel like he's like 27. I'm just gonna say it, and he just like slept in.
We've also got Roland, portrayed by Alfonso Ribeiro of Carlton from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air fame.
Don't everybody overreact, but he did serve some time for burglary.
Are you out of your damn mind? Ashley?
Oh, that's fun. Oh, okay. That recontextualizes him a lot. Okay. So I initially was like bristled at the character a bit, and maybe this is going to sound like total white savior double down, but I guess this was just my initial reaction. When he walked in and his first line is like, what? I don't pay attention to that rap stuff. I was like, I don't love the notion of like putting in a black character and kind of whiteifying them to look progressive, but it comes off as kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I mean, I didn't watch the first two, but it sounds like maybe they were trying to sort of cram lots of different traits in there, and it didn't really land as well as they thought it
But
might.
I wonder, but hearing he's Carlton, I wonder if that's like kind of a snide allusion to the sensibilities of that character. So that recontextualizes a good deal.
Oh, possibly, yeah. I guess that's what he was known for, and at the time, I think Fresh Prince would probably have still been going on, if not just about finished.
And then we have the one who I briefly mistook to be another Bill Murray character when he first showed up in the intro.
Garrett, the guy in the wheelchair?
Yeah, Garrett, yeah.
Who apparently was not meant to be in a wheelchair in their early like concepts for the series, but they decided that Garrett wasn't a very exciting character and he was kind of dull. So they thought, oh, how can we make him more interesting? So they thought, putting him in a wheelchair and making him the guy who sort of has overcome that kind of adversity in his life would give him kind of an edge, which is cool because, how many cartoons can you point to from the 90s where there's a character in a wheelchair?
I can literally think of Dragon Tales, and that's about it. And I don't even know if that's the 90s, actually. I think it's a neat touch. I think he's I guess without that element to the character, he would have just been Venkman 2.0, but also a little less smart. And that he's just kind of the wisecracker, loves to eat.
Yeah, he reminded me more of Ray.
I guess. Or Ray. Yeah, I tend to get the two confused. Yeah.
I thought he was going to be revealed to be Ray's son when I got back into the series. I was like, oh, he looks like Ray. Maybe that's his son, and his son goes to join up with Egon or something.
Yes, it's Ray.
Remind me of each other.
In the first step, and you mentioned you didn't rewatch the pilot. I kind of want to bring up the plot line that that people today assume that the Ghostbusters were a hoax, that were trying to fool people for into thinking ghosts were real for their business, which is an idea that's pretty much absurd. But I guess you gotta go with something, because I think we all remember when the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man tore down the city.
In real life, or
yeah.
Is that
depending on
2020?
Depending on if you upload this before or after the election, that could very much happen. Donald Trump refuses to give office, so when he loses, he just inflates into the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
I could see Donald Trump knowing the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from the 80s or something. I knew him. It's such a disgrace what he's doing. He's made out of marshmallows. He's flinging them everywhere. Absolute
loser.
Loser. Ask him how it feels to be a giant marshmallow. Hopefully, this episode will be out before the election.
Yeah.
Providing that all the candidates are alive at that point. The way that we're going.
You can tell by the levity in my voice that this is pre-election, because I think whenever we get to another episode after this, I'm just going to be like, Bucky O'Hare, what's the point? And just log off. So, speaking of horrifying creatures, one of these featured basically Cenobites, right?
Yes, we watched, the 3 episodes we watched were Deadliners, Grundle-esque, and Till Death Do We Start. So Deadliners is an episode which is about a writer who, to me, is very clearly based off Clive Barker, although not so much in appearance, but definitely in the tone of his works and the monsters that he creates.
I think his name is a play on R.L. Stine, too. It's like 2 initials, Klein.
Yeah, definitely. Like a mixture of both of those writers. That's what they were going for. So yeah, he makes like a Faustian pact with these demons that he then writes into his books. And he becomes very famous on account of the fact that his books are very scary. Although apparently only read by teenage audiences.
Right.
Which is a joke that's leveled at, who is it who reads them? In the
Garrett is Garrett. He's like kind of, yeah.
And they're like, oh, you read those? And it's like, have you seen them? Don't make fun of the man.
Yeah.
So yeah, they end up having to deal with these monsters that have been willed into life, and they are horrific. They are literal animate. They're worse than the Cenobites. I found these guys much creepier than Pinhead and like the female Cenobites and the Chatterer.
They didn't have the limits of what could go on a person's body as a prosthetic. They could just draw whatever messed up thing they wanted.
Yeah. One of them clearly very based on Butterball from the movies with his tiny little sunglasses.
Yes.
That was the most obvious sort of homage, I think. The giant sort of, the guy who doesn't actually have a face, but he just speaks out of this big hole in his head. He's horrific.
You're telling me. I got a kick out of them, and it turns out you can write is it like, I hope I'm not misremembering, but you can like edit the story and write things that happen to them, correct?
That's right, yes. They keep having that line, don't they, which is, if it is written, it cannot be undone, or something like that.
That's a good creepy touch.
Yeah.
I like that.
Your flesh is ours.
Write his demise, scribe.
Maybe he doesn't feel like it.
He feels like it. The scribe is but an instrument of our will.
We are the true authors. We tell him what to write. Hurting people wasn't part of the deal. You said your ideas were fiction.
They were fiction.
Until you made us real.
So yeah, we watched that one, and probably the most disturbing one that we watched, at least in my opinion, was Grundle-esque.
Oh boy, when you get what we were talking about kind of with Darkstalkers, which might come after this one if we arrange things to come out for Halloween, because it's middle of it's October.
Probably will, yeah.
But we recorded that one a bit ago, and you might not see it for a sec. But like we were talking about in Darkstalkers, how there's always the kid thrown in as a point of view. So with that context, how the kid is like the hunted in this episode, that's genuinely so freaky. Because it'd be kids watching this and putting themselves in the shoes of the brother character.
Yeah. Like the younger, is that Carlton's younger brother? I can't remember what the character's name is. I'm going to call him Carlton.
His name is Will. No. Yeah, Carlton's little brother who is targeted by the Grundles.
I have to say, when I first watched this one, because I'd missed a few episodes and I just sort of went in for some of the best ones, I thought that was his son. And I thought he was like a single father, which I think would have been a cool angle.
That would have been a fun, yeah. He has to like convince him ghosts aren't real. And he's like, so what are you going to your second job for? Hunting ducks? I don't know.
Fish.
Fish. And kick him over. His design harkens me to Freddy Krueger a bit with the hat and the slightly diminutive stature. Even though he's more, I guess he's kind of like Pennywise if he lures children, huh?
He's a bit of both, isn't he? Yeah,
Yeah.
lurking outside the windows trying to lure children out. There's some definite sort of, like child abuser vibes with him.
Ugh, yeah, it's great. The trench coat sells it. That's what it does.
Yeah.
I think they knew what they were doing with that choice.
They did. And he is very creepy. The Hellraiser monsters are kind of horrific, but this one is more psychologically terrifying, I think.
Do it.
Back so soon, my petulant child. I've missed you too. Pined for you, even.
Do you know who does the voice? Because it reminded me of someone.
I don't know who does the voice, but yeah, it reminded me of somebody as well. It's a very distinctive performance.
Let me take a look. I wonder. I felt like I was like, that's got to be someone like Malcolm McDowell or some icon of.
Yeah, he sounds really familiar to me.
Oh, okay. It's Roger Bumpass, who is Squidward.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Amazing.
So maybe not a horror icon, but certainly a tenured icon of voice work, and he does a great job.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm glad we found that would explain why he sounds familiar, I guess. Yeah. Damn Ghostbusters.
SpongeBob, I'm trying to lure children into my transformative call.
Squidward, why are you kidnapping those children?
Then, I don't know, Patrick saves the day. I don't know.
Mr. Krabs
very dark episode.
by Squidward knocking on children's windows, tempting them out with Krusty Krab burgers.
No. You can't kidnap those children, Mr. Squidward. They're half of our business base.
It's a really good impression of Mr. Krabs.
Thank you.
Very convincing.
I want to touch a little on the animation style, unless there was something else you wanted to say about that episode.
No, you go ahead.
I want to, because the art was really familiar to me, and I don't know the studio exactly, but it reminds me a lot of Men in Black, and they also did a 2000s Godzilla show based on the Matthew Broderick joint. So they did a lot of.
It's the same, yeah.
Yeah, that vaguely it borders on line of Klasky Chupo with Jumanji and Rugrats, where it's that very rounded, almost the word squiggly comes to mind in that the smaller details are very circular and looped, but it's not at all round. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's kind of angular to a degree, but not to the point that it's overly stylized. It's an interesting look. So I ask you the immortal question: would you recommend the Extreme Ghostbusters? Would you recommend it to Bill Murray if you saw him? if you were walking down the street, Bill Murray's walking opposite you. He looks really depressed. He's trying not to meet your eye line, and you're like, you know what he'd love if I asked him about the Extreme Ghostbusters. Do you recommend it to him?
The first thing I'd ask him about is Space Jam. Let me be clear about that.
Was Bill Murray in Space Jam?
I think he was. Wayne Knight was in it. Bill Murray wasn't. Let me double check. I think he was. Because there's also Wayne Knight, and I always thought their characters were kind of redundant to the point that your confusion now has me second guessing myself. He is indeed in Space Jam. Yes, I am correct. He entered. He joins the Toon Squad last minute. He puts on the jersey.
Isn't that Wayne Knight?
Wayne Knight is in it too.
Does he do the same
Their
thing?
characters are rather redundant.
How bizarre.
They're both in it, and
I have no memory whatsoever of Bill Murray appearing in Space Jam. Yep.
Back to your question at hand, I would happily recommend Extreme Ghostbusters after I finish bugging Bill Murray about Space Jam. I would also suggest he watch Extreme Ghostbusters, and he'd see himself in the final episode and be like, "Is this my replacement?" And I'd say, "It's your replacement's replacement." And then blood then blood like covers the screen, and it's really creepy. But it's a good show. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you've said. It is a good show. It is worth watching. Underrated, I think.
I didn't even, when you first put Extreme Ghostbusters on our Google Doc, I confused it with Real Ghostbusters because I hadn't heard of this.
Interesting. Yeah, I think most people probably haven't heard of it. I guess because it ran for one season and the other one was on for so long.
Yeah.
But, I'd say this was easily worthy of a second season, particularly with the final episode sort of setting up more crossovers with the original characters. Yeah. I can't think of some sort of pun to end the episode with. Have a frightfully good new year. Oh, it's ruined it.
Wow. Okay, we're skipping ahead of it in months, but